Hello, everyone. I would like to ask for your indulgences or indulgence for a minute here. Yesterday, I had some pretty bad news. My best friend, Rusty, has passed away, and I would like to make a little memorial video to him. There's not a whole lot nothing I can really do for him anymore, of course, but in some ways, I think this will live until at least YouTube dies, anyway, right? This video can sit here I don't know. It's helping me, I think, to think about when I first met him. His father owned a pig farm. I had joined the local fire company that he was volunteer fire company that he was a member of, and I was only 15, I forget what they even call those kind of members, where you could go up and help wash the trucks, basically. But we hung out together. There was a group of other teens, and there was another group of guys who had joined years before, and Rusty was one of them. They were about 30 years old, so they were older than us. I can't say at that point I was a friend of his, but at some point he asked me to come to the farm and help him out. And I said, well, look, I'm going to Germany for 5 weeks, like as an exchange student type of thing. And he said, that's fine. I could use the help. He said, the spring's busy. If nothing else, I'll get you weed whacking. So I weed whacked a lot. But I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed working around the animals, and by the time I went to Germany, he had made an arrangement with another one of the teens at the firehouse to come up, and I was afraid that other guy who was bigger and a couple years older than me would outwork me. And he said that, like, when I got back from Germany, he said no, he lasted like 2 days and he quit. So I'm still friends with that guy too. But in any event, about 2 years later, I had gone to get a job at a computer place. I always liked computers. I program now, and I had given my notice. And on the day I was supposed to start my new job, his sister called me. They had, she said that, look, Rusty's been hurt. Do you mind coming to the farm and feeding the pigs? And I said, sure. But while we were even on the phone, they called for a helicopter landing assist with the fire company. By that time, I was 16, so I was allowed to go on calls. You weren't allowed to go on in the burning buildings or anything like that, but you could still go on the truck if a senior member wasn't there. So I said, look, I'll be right there, of course, and came down. And it turns out we had an old Farmall tractor, and the arms of the thing weren't invisible like this, but it looked a lot like this. It wasn't nearly as new or as red as this. And behind it, we had a feed wagon that was not exactly like this either, but there was a, auger that ran the length of it. And then it was on the other side. Not that you guys care that much. Oops. But like, just sort of like this comes out, but instead here had like a conveyor that stuck up, and where the auger came out of the body, there was like a chain right down there that would drive the flights, like, so like the PTO came through, right, and you can picture that shaft, and there was a chain sprocket on the shaft, and then a sprocket on this conveyor that pumped the feed out. And we would use it at certain times. We didn't always use it, but it was good for mixing up the feed for the pigs when they were the right age and putting the right minerals. They would get the minerals better if it was mixed in with their feed and whatever else you wanted to feed them. So in any event, at times that chain, like, because there was a lot of stress on this thing at times, that chain would stretch out. It was really like under designed, or maybe not designed for exactly what we were using it for. And that chain would stretch. So you could replace that chain 100 times and it would still just stretch eventually. And so he went down there. You could get when there was two of us, you could kind of get it and work it around with like a pry bar. But if not, what you would do is you didn't have to leave the tractor running, but you would get it down there, get the chain like most of the way on, and then turn on the PTO, and it would pop the chain back into position, right? And sort of like you would anyway, I'm not going to get into that. So he was down under there, and let me see, can I crouch down and see that shaft underneath of there? Well, he was laying here, and he had put the thing on the side, like it was on a slight slope, and the block, he had put like two sides of a block there, and it broke, and the whole thing ran forward, and it pinched his shoulders. And needless to say, he was badly hurt. He became quadriplegic. And I say all of that because that was, as a young kid, that was pretty traumatic to have somebody, being flown off to the hospital. And, at that point, they still had, about 1,800 pigs or 2,000 pigs on the farm. And so I ended up staying working there. And then eventually he got out of the hospital, and at that point, we weren't best of friends or anything. I mean, I just did it, to help the family out. I knew him for 2 years at that point, but as time went on, we just became better and better friends. Some of it at first was, I was an 18-year-old kid. He was 30 some years old or 30 years old, whatever it was, 32. Not normal group of people that would hang out together type thing. But we stayed friends for 30 some years, and he was in the wheelchair. And the reason I'm getting into all of that is, throughout my life, one of the lessons that I learned from him was just he always kind of had his head up. Like, I mean, can you imagine being quadriplegic where you can barely move your arms and you can't squeeze your hands or manipulate your fingers in any way? And he lived with that. And very rarely did it ever get him down. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say he didn't. I mean, obviously that would affect everybody greatly, but he really was, no matter how hard my life was or is or whatever, and it's not hard, certainly not compared to him and some other people out there, but he just always kept going and soldiering on, you could say. And he really and that's not the reason I was his friend, right? But that was just something that about him that was really and truly special. So I know there's other people out there that are going through tough times, and I'm not one to sit here and say you should always keep your head up. I mean, do the best you can like he did. And that it's, you're given what you're given, and you just have to make the best of it and try not to pity yourself too much. He never did. I mean, he believe me, he thought about this tractor in more than one dream, and he could have, because if he had just taken the bucket and put it down straight, like where it would have dug into the ground, but he just sort of left it like this, flat. And if he had just taken any kind of a rock, I mean, we had a million rocks. I mean, we had regular proper wheel chocks, but he just took like 2 pieces of a cinder block and put it in front of one wheel. And it just, when that gave, it just and he could have just done it on a flat zone, right? Like where it just wouldn't have rolled. As a matter of fact, normally where we would park it was in a bit of a bowl and like a dip in the ground. So, I mean, it just, anything, that's not to say he didn't question himself and what he did in the past, but he always had a bit of a bright outlook. And I don't want to think he was insane for all of that. He just really kept his head up, and maybe you guys can do that too. Maybe this helps someone, and even if it doesn't, it's a little bit, like I said, this is more about a tribute to him. There was many other qualities that he had that I loved and will miss forever. And there's just never, I have other friends, I have other good friends, but they'll never replace him, and the loss is felt, so, and I don't want to get too morbid about this, and just know that I'm going to do the best I can to get videos out. If I don't seem quite so chipper, I have a few in the tube, so to speak, where they're, but I just don't even feel like playing video games necessarily. I don't feel like, it's not that I don't feel like playing video games. I just don't, like, some of the spice of life is gone, and that's because he's gone. And there's nothing much we can do about it, or I can do about it, so I'm sure you guys are going to wish me well and all. And, I hope that somehow this video sort of goes into infinity. I mean, hopefully it gets backed up to the interweb and there's just some little tiny memorial to him that, is out there and makes me feel maybe in some slight way better. Talking about it certainly isn't going to hurt. I'll talk to other friends and family. But so anyway, guys, I really appreciate all your support through for this channel, and I apologize to anyone who didn't want to hear like a downer. And by the way, it had nothing to do with the coronavirus. He got sick before that, and he just arguably didn't take good enough care of himself. So yeah, if you're feeling sick, like, listen to what the doctors say. If you go, because he did go to the doctor, and they said, well, look, you really need a full string of antibiotics, and we need to put you in the hospital for a day or two just to make sure there's no reaction to those. And he didn't want to do that. He just took like a prescription antibiotics, and it cost him. So yeah, listen to your doctor and be safe about safety. If there's something else that, really affected me throughout my life is that knowing he got hurt this way, and he could have done any little thing to break that chain of events that would have completely changed his life. And you just don't know. You just don't know what little dumb things you're going to do that could really get you hurt. So if you think you're in a bit of an unsafe situation, take a lesson from him and just do those little extra things that could really, truly make a difference. Okay, guys. Well, thanks for listening. And, I hope you have a good day. And I will try to keep making videos. Don't worry. I mean, I don't want to stop my life, but if I'm just not quite as happy sounding in the next few videos or after those ones that I've done ahead of time, you'll understand. And if there's a few less videos, you might understand that too, I hope. All right, guys. Thank you. Take care and have a good day. Bye-bye.